Afternoon, everyone. It is now 1:40 p.m. Today is August 7th, 2024, and we are here in the Senate chamber of the Honorable Jesus P. Mofnes Memorial Building, and I now call this meeting to order. At this time, can I get a motion for the...
So move.
Sorry, Senator Mendiola. Before we begin, I'd like to establish quorum, and by establishing quorum, I'd like to recognize Senator Dennis Mendiola, Senator Karina Magofnia, Chair for Fiscal Affairs. I'm Donald Maloney, Chair for this committee, and with 3 members present, we have the quorum to proceed. Senator Carl King Neighbors will be joining us shortly, as well as Senator Jude Hoff-Schneider and Senator Paul Maloney. Senator Selena Mabalta is excused from today's meeting. And with that, I now would like to recognize the staff assisting the committee. We have our senior legislative aide, Jolene Dueñas-Stagwell, legal counsel, Joe Bermudez, fiscal analyst, Dave Demapon, IT manager, Jonathan Diaz, our sergeant at arms, Ben Terlahi, and also with us is Devin Macaranas and LJ Castro. And with that, can I get the motion for the adoption of today's agenda?
Motion to adopt today's agenda.
All right, motion was made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We now move down to public comments. Floor is now open for any comments from the public. We will be receiving written comments from MPOT. They've been in communication with the committee, and we'll be getting that shortly, and we'll be part of the record as soon as we get that in. If there's no one else from the public wishing to make any comments, we will close that portion and move down to introduction. We have before us the Department of Public Lands. They've submitted a budget request of 5.6 million. Of that, 3.2 is proposed for personnel, and then the remaining is for operational expenses. And it looks like every category except for 5, they've proposed funding for those activities. From our understanding, preliminary review of the House version of the budget, which was pre-filed yesterday and will be acted on tomorrow or discussed tomorrow. Sorry, pre-filed Monday. They propose to remove 1 million from DPL and remit that over to MPOT. And so that will be part of the discussion. Additionally, there is pending legislation in the committee that appropriates 1 million that was received by a judgment that we have yet to act on, and then we'll also discuss that. And so, without further ado, I invite the secretary as well as her team to come join us in the chamber to provide any remarks before we entertain questions. Thank you. At this time, I recognize the secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon. So I understand that DPO has already forwarded a copy of our proposed fiscal year 2025 budget, including our cover letter. And so I'll just kind of condense, my remarks for this afternoon. And so Again, good afternoon, Honorable Chairman and esteemed members of the Senate Standing Committee on Fiscal Affairs. The Department of Public Lands, again under the Office of the Governor, Lieutenant Governor, submits its fiscal year 2025 proposed budget of 5.5 instead of 5.6. Mr. Chairman, for correction on the record. This budget ensures the department's continued effectiveness in managing and sustaining our public lands. Personal costs are allocated at 58% of the budget, totaling about 3.2 million. This reflects a reduction of 81 full-time equivalents or FTEs, 74 active employees, 7 vacancies, again emphasizing efficiency and responsibility or management and disposition of public lands. The remaining 2.29 is designated for essential operational expenditures, including a 1% allocation for the public auditor's fee to maintain financial transparency. Key investments include 119.587 for UTVs, ATVs to support our homestead projects in Rhoda and Tinian. We have those breakdowns, and 225,000 for a new boat to enhance the safety of Managaha Rangers. We have quotations for those. An additional 25,000 is allocated for advertising new and renewal leases, and 111,000 for fuel expenditures. Professional services are budgeted at 683,000, covering 110 for legal services, 40,000 for Northern Island projects, 75,000 for a mandated single audit, and 275,000 for updating the land use plan. Security and maintenance services for Camp Pacific and Managaha Island allocated at 145,000. Office rentals amount to 225,000, which covers our office rentals for all the 3 senatorial districts. Vehicle and equipment maintenance are allocated at 225,500,000, with 150,000 for Managaha's generator and reverse osmosis system. Currently, DPL manages a fleet of 19 vehicles, 6 of which are in poor condition, 7 in fair condition, and 6 in good condition. This distribution underscores the necessity of continued investment in vehicle maintenance and replacement to support our operation efficiency. Our revenue forecast for fiscal year 2025 projects 5.321 million from Saipan, 56,000 from Rhoda, and about 188,000 from Tinian. We have also secured grants for key projects, 220 for the Managaha Pier Safety Railing Project, 320,000 for the revegetation of abandoned quarries, and 95,000 for the agricultural homestead programs, land surveying initiative. We were not approved, however, for the 711,000 request for the Managaha Island erosion impact study due to high competition and limited amount of funds available. Additionally, 1 million was secured for the Asgono homestead here on Saipan, 3.8 million for Tinian's water line and power line projects, and around 847,000 for Rota's Dugi homestead waterline project. So these funds reflect the collaborative efforts of our CNMI leaders, and for that we extend our appreciation to our Honorable Governor Palacios and Lieutenant Governor Apatang, U.S. Delegate Sablan, and other key stakeholders for securing these grants, such as the Office of Management, CIP, and former Representative Tina Sablan. These federal funds are designated for specific projects and cannot, of course, be diverted to personnel or operations. Given this, Mr. Chairman and members, DPL humbly ask for your support of our department's fiscal year 2025 budget, again, for the effective management and protection of our public lands for NMDs and CNMI. Before we go into the Q&A, please allow me to introduce our team, our DPO team, which are, familiar faces to the legislature. And so we have Director Greg, who's in charge of, the compliance division. We have Director Pat, who handles planning division. We have Director Evelyn Sablan, who's in charge of finance and accounting. I'm sure that most of the questions will be directed to Director Sablan this afternoon. To my right, we have Director Bonnie of Real Estate. And of course, DPO was fortunate enough to have or to employ now a grant writer, Mr. Bono Taitano. And because we don't have that many chairs up here, I have requested our SA Dave Sablan to just sit back there. But any issues that would require his him moving up, I would let him know. And so in addition to the introduction of our team, Mr. Chairman, I would also like the committee to know that the Senate Fiscal Analyst has requested several documents, perhaps for the purposes of this hearing this afternoon, and DPL was able to produce those documents or materials, and perhaps that may address some of the questions that the committee may have. And so at this time, Mr. Chairman, DPL stands available to respond to the committee's questions with regards again to our proposed fiscal year 2025 budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. And thank you for the breakdown you provided to the committee. At this time, I'd like to just start off with before I do, I'd like to recognize the presence of Senator Carl King Neighbors. And Mr. Sablan, at any time, please feel free to use the available seats that are up here. And so they won't all be filled. So you're more than welcome to join your team up here. Secretary, how many, I see on the proposal that there's at least 5 or 6 vacant FTEs. Are those still vacant?
So again, we have 74 active and 7 vacancies, and these vacancies are still available. Yes, that is correct, Mr. Chairman.
And these were vacant since the start of the fiscal year, or they became vacant during the fiscal year?
So some of them have been vacant since the beginning of the fiscal year, and that is as a result of DPO sending out vacancy announcement. However, we received no reviews or eligibilities. Some are just vacant, during the fiscal year.
Okay. Any plans to fill these up?
Once our proposed budget is approved for fiscal year 2025, yes.
Okay. Are you aware of the House action on your budget?
I have yet to obtain a copy of that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So essentially they removed 100 million from your proposed budget. How would that affect your budget? I mean, 1 million, sorry, correction.
So may I see a copy of the proposed House action on DPO's proposed budget? Thank you. So my reading of this, Mr. Chairman, I think is the House is still proposing the same amount that DPO proposes to, again, the legislature at 5.5 million.
What is the status of the 1 million that was initially proposed from the House to appropriate to DPL?
So I think that was legislation that was introduced by the former Speaker of the House, and that 1 million was as a result of the antitrust settlement between the former Camp Pacific and the Imperial Pacific International.
And where is that money now?
And I believe that legislation is still in your committee, Mr. Chairman, if
Right.
I'm not mistaken. And so that 1 million is supposed to be under DPL's operational fund account with the Department of Finance.
So those funds haven't been used?
That is correct.
Okay.
They have not been utilized.
And the reason it's been sitting is because we have yet to receive any reports from your department as to the additional explanation or request that was brought up during that committee meeting that was going to address that 1 million. So it doesn't seem like this is something that is of urgency. And so is there anyone that who
So-
was
so-
here that can?
So, Mr. Chairman,
Verify.
I believe some of those, requested items under that legislation, I think has been incorporated in this fiscal year 2025 budget. For one, for instance, the land use review,
Okay.
the boat for Manyagoha. And yes.
Okay. So the 1 million that is still sitting in committee, would you say that is something that you would support to remit over to MPOT?
Yeah, okay, so it is my understanding that after after the fiscal year ends, that anything that has not been spent by DPL must be remitted over to the Marianas Public Land Trust.
Okay.
If we're saying that the House proposes to incorporate the 1 million from that proposed legislation into DPO's budget and remit that to MPOT, I would have to seek some guidance on that.
Okay. Well, even if the request that you made from that 1 million is now included in this budget, we're still waiting on those additional reports that were supposed to be provided to the committee to address the concerns that were brought up for that 1 million. But now that it's incorporated into next fiscal year's budget, we have yet to receive any additional reports from that initial meeting. I think some of the concerns were brought up was the need for some of your action items or your requested items that were in the initial proposal to include, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a boat and several vehicles.
And it is for this reason, Mr. Chairman, that I mentioned earlier that some of those that were requested under that proposed legislation have already been included in this proposed fiscal year 2025.
Correct.
Yes.
And so, like I said, we have yet to receive the breakdown as to.
We have
the
them.
need
We have
for-
them readily available this afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Is that something that you
Yes.
can share with the committee? right now?
Absolutely.
So under what category would your land use plan be funded out of?
Can you repeat that again? Mr.
Under what expense category would you say you would use to fund for the land use plan study?
Under the planning division,
Professional services.
under professional services.
And how much do you anticipate to spend on the land use plan?
Well, again, we propose 275 again because this is not this is just for a review. This is
Right.
just to update the current land use plan.
Okay,
Yes.
understood. And how would the remaining 400,000 be used under your professional services?
Then under professional services, I believe there's 70 or you have that? You have that? One moment, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Okay, so the breakdown for professional services, again, Mr. Chairman, is at 483, 110 for legal services, 40 for the Northern Island project, 75 for a mandated single audit, 275 for the land use plan. We have already echoed that several times. Security and maintenance for Camp Pacific and Manyakoha. Up to this time, DPO continues to provide the necessary security and maintenance for these two, properties
How much
at
did you allocate for that?
145,000
For which properties?
for the maintenance and security of Camp Pacific, including Manyakoha. And the last one here is 224 for our rental offices, which includes Saipan Road and Tinian.
You already have an allocation for rental offices separate, correct? Yeah, so the rental is a separate category. Sorry, I was asking for the breakdown for the 400, and then you included the 200 for rental.
So where is that 400 coming out from, Mr. Chairman? Are you referring to the
remainder of the 283. So the 683 minus the 275 for the land use plan. The remainder is about 408,000.
I thought we provided the breakdown, and then again, that is 110 for legal services,
Correct.
40 for the Northern Islands. We have the
145 for security.
Yes. And then we have the single audit at 75. And then we have the Homestead database at 8. And then we have the land claims appraisal of 20 and title search at 10. And that's about it. Right? The 683, right?
683.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, professional mention. I mentioned that. Yeah. The one you didn't mention is this, and this is not amount.
That's about 300, about around 300,000, no?
150 plus 8.
Okay. So let's repeat that one more time, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so 683 minus the 275. How much does that give us?
About 408.
Okay. So we subtract 40,000 for legal, 70,000 for legal services, 40,000 for legal services,
Can you-
Pagan at 40,000. So the first legal services is, we avail of the services of the Office of the Attorney General. So we normally pay average 70,000 per annum.
Okay.
And then we have 40,000 reserved for legal services in the event that, there's a litigation against the department. We allocated 40, and then 40 for the Northern Islands. That's a total of 150, correct?
Yes.
So we deduct that from the 400, and then we go down. We have 75 for the single audit. Okay. And then we have the Homestead annual database, the maintenance for our database at 8,000. And then we have land claims appraisal at 20, title search 200 land claims at 10. So that's 30, right?
Yes.
And then we have 145
Security services.
for security services and maintenance for Camp Pacific property and Manyakoha.
Okay.
So those are the breakdown for the remaining amount from the 683,000.
So you only provide security services to 2 properties?
That is correct, because those are the only two. Yes, because of what is Camp Pacific. Of course, Elan is with you, and so when Elan is, acted on, perhaps we do not need to provide any more security.
So you don't provide any security to any of the other properties?
No, because they are currently being leased. Oh, Hyatt is still under is still in the hands of Protopia.
So after August, when that expires, who will maintain and secure the property?
So you too, Director Bonnie.
So with Saipan Portopia, right now, we have not officially received any notice of termination. So as of right now, they still have the lease all the way up to December.
Okay, so they're still accountable through December.
Yes.
Does that mean they're still going to pay for the lease payments as well? If they haven't officially terminated,
Right. So they have paid up to December.
also they
of
have
this year.
paid,
Yes.
and that those payments are reflected in the FY25 as part of revenues?
Dave?
Should be, yeah.
Should be?
Revenue.
So so when you submitted your revenue forecast to finance or the governor, it was included. Okay, just want to make sure we have that on the record. Thank you. I yield, Chair.
Thank you. So you don't have any like security services for the resort or any big properties?
I think that's a director. Are you to Director Greg?
Mr. Chairman, it's the Camp Pacific that we're providing professional service for security. The former Camp Pacific lease,
Okay.
so that's the only one.
But you don't monitor or you don't provide security for other properties like the resort, Rota Resort, or any
No, sir.
properties like that?
Just.
Is there a reason why none of those or services are being?
It's the lessee that provides those kind of security services.
Okay. And under repair and maintenance, you have 255,000 proposed.
Repeat that again, Mr. Chairman.
Under repair and maintenance,
Mhm.
what are you're requesting for 255,000?
Yes, and I would yield over to a compliance division. Director Greg have the breakdown of that. We have the breakdown, so, all of our, what's this proposed, requested a budget proposal.
So under the compliance budget, Mr. Chairman, we budgeted 65,000 out of that 255, you said? We have 65,000 for repairs and maintenance. And that includes all of our vehicles, our boats, the tractor mowers and riding mowers at Camp Pacific, including one of the manpower services.
And the remainder?
I only budgeted 65 out of that. Yes. 255. Yes. I'm not sure. Lynn, are you to?
So 190 in repair and maintenance for
Good
what?
afternoon, Mr. Chairman and the members of the House, of the Senate, sorry. The breakdown of the repairs and maintenance are for admin, they have 10,000. Executive is 3,000. Finance division, 3,000. Homestead division, 2,000. Land claims, 4,000. Planning, 6,000. Real estate, 2,500. Compliance, 65,000. Rota, 5,000. Tinian, 5,000. And Mananagahal Island is 150,000. That comes up to $255,500.
That's a lot
Thank you.
for me. How many vehicles and equipment do you have, or how many vehicles do you have in your fleet?
So we have a total of 19 again, Mr. Chairman, 7 of which are really in poor condition. 6 are in fair condition and 7 are in good condition.
And so
No, I'm
that's,
sorry. I stand to be corrected. 6 in poor condition, 7 in fair, and 6 in good condition for a total of 19. That's only on vehicles.
and what's the condition of your boat?
Oh, our boat. That's a very good question. It's, go ahead, Director Vic.
It's running on prayers right now.
It's in poor condition.
So the 270 under vehicles would be for the boat?
The boat is 225,000, Mr. Chairman.
And you've listed that under the vehicles category, correct?
Yes,
And that's to purchase a new boat.
yes.
Did you allocate any of your current budget for the audits
Yes, yes,
in the current budget?
yes.
And
It's under professional service.
how much have you set aside for that?
The total of the
70.
audit reserve is 75,000. That's under professional services.
For next budget, but for the current budget, did you allocate
For the
any
current budget, I believe,
It was already contracted, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So for the current fiscal year you're referring to, Mr. Chairman, it has already been contracted, right? Or are we
Yes.
working with the contract for
It's done.
procurement?
It's
Oh,
done.
It's done.
For
So
the
for the
current-
current year to cover what years?
The current year covers 2024 and 23.
And so you're requesting for 75 for next fiscal year to cover what period?
Since we don't have rollover on the unspent budget, we budgeted for 2 years. Just since 22 has not been done, 23 has not been done, so we budgeted for 2 years. So in case they will finish the budget within a year, we'll be able to proceed to the next fiscal year.
So by next fiscal year, you should have the audits for 2022 to 2024. Is that correct?
Maybe 23 and 24. Because it's already almost end of the fiscal year, and 22 has not even been audited.
Okay. Looking at your unaudited balance sheet, you have 7.9 million in the reserve account. Are you able to explain if that is still the case and the intention of those funds?
What fiscal year, sir?
Fiscal year ending April 30, 2024.
2024. An audit year, this one. 2024. Unaudited, you are looking at the balance sheet?
Yes, the under fund balances. There's a
And the fund
reserve.
balances is the 5.566075, that's included here, which is the budget for the ensuing years, which is the 25. And yes, ma'am. And how about
Then the remaining.
the remaining 4 million something? I don't have the balance. I don't have the papers. The
Okay,
question is
what was? can
So
you
out of
repeat?
the 7.9, right, that's under reserved, 5.5 is allocated for the FY25
Correct.
budget. And then what is the remainder of 2.4?
So at the end of the fiscal year, whatever is after, all the deductions that have been incurred by the department shall be remitted over to MPLT.
Can I just recognize our fiscal analyst?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at your balance sheet as of April 30, 2024, and it's showing a reserve fund balance of approximately $7.9 million. We want to know what's the breakdown of that amount. Because what you're saying for FY 2025, we cannot do that under fund reserve balance because we're now within the fiscal year of FY 2024. And that number represents the cumulative balance of the fund balance as of April 30, 2024. We cannot include beyond 2024 because this report is cut off on April 30, 2024. I don't know where that 25, you said 25,000, 25 million? 5.5 million, you're reserving it for FY 2025? How, and what is that about? What is it for?
2025 forecast.
Forecast? You mean the forecast is already, we have the forecast for 2025 in the budget as reported from your office to be the budget for FY 2025. So you're making a reservation of money to lead you into 2025? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe those are the collections.
No, this is not a change in change balance. Is
Those are maybe the collections.
Recognize Vice Chair.
Generated.
Just a quick clarification. Is the 7.9 under the reserved, is that actual monies in the bank? Or are these forecast?
these are the one in the bank.
So so the 7.9 is money that DPO already has.
Bank or Department of Finance?
That's in that's in the Department of Finance.
Okay, but
Operations
it's
funds.
money that's already in the bank, not forecast.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
So again, can you provide the breakdown of that 7.9 that's currently in Department of Finance?
Okay, so we have to provide those, the breakdown of, how, that amount, because we don't have the information readily available at this time.
Thank you.
Quick clarification. So what types of funds go into the reserved? Because then when we get the breakdown, then it'll tell us, right? But I know that you don't have it right now, but on the top of your head,
So
what?
Chair, okay, so we do not have reserve accounts. All our revenues are deposited into the DPO operation account, which was established by DPO sometimes early part of this year.
Got it. So the reserve on your balance sheet is not a reserve account per se.
It is not.
So this is in a unrestricted account, you're saying?
That is with the Department of Finance
Department of
under
Finance.
our department's
Under
account.
your department, okay.
Yes,
So it's not necessarily called a reserved account.
We never have a
You're
reserve
showing it on
account.
your balance sheet as you're reserving it for.
Sorry,
for-
that may be just, some technical error, but no, we do not maintain a reserve
Oh.
account.
Okay, because typically you wouldn't put that on your financial statement.
Restricted, yeah.
But even if it's restricted, it would have been recorded. Your financial statements reflect entries that have been recorded into your system, not something that you just reserve and put it on the side for future use. You would never reflect that on your financial statement unless you've already booked it in the system.
Everything has been booked in the system.
So you've already booked $5.5 million for 2025 in your system for when you're still in FY24? Sorry, just clarifying.
What's that, Chair, again? Sorry.
So typically when you have your financial statement, right, these are entries that have already been recorded and posted. When you generate the report, it posts those entries and it generates this report. But what you're saying is that the fund balance under reserved, right, is just an allocation for future use. But she's saying that she already recorded the $5.5 million in the system. That's why it's showing on the balance sheet.
If I may clarify, we were discussing first on the reserve, that's 7.9.
Right.
The fund balance at the end of a fiscal year. This is, what do you call this? The allocation of this is, one of this is 5.5.
I understand that, but that's for
Yes.
future.
Yes.
Yes.
the fund
But normally
balance.
when you generate your financial statements, it's entries that have already been recorded because it has already transpired. Not something that you, unless, if you record it for future, then it would be either considered prepaid or unearned revenue, right?
Yes.
If you receive payment and you still, but so it's showing on your balance sheet. So, but it's not even for FY24 transactions. It's a reservation for FY25.
Yes.
So essentially, it's almost like a prepaid entry, right? You're setting aside money for future, but it's already reflected on your balance sheet as of April 30
Yes.
of this year.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, for that explanation.
Okay.
And now we know that we have, accountants, right, that can,
Yes, please
enlighten us as
take a
to
look
how
at that
to,
because
accurately report this
Yes.
funding, because it makes a lot of difference. But thank you for that.
okay, yes, we won't debate on that. Okay, thank you.
At this time, I recognize any member. Recognize the Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So going back to the vehicles, right? There's a $270,000 budget request and 225, I believe, is what is set aside for the boat, correct? Or 225 for a new boat. And so that leaves about $55,000 remaining. What will that be used for?
So I'll yield over to the compliance
Okay.
on that, Director Grant.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Can you repeat your question, please?
So under vehicles, there's a budget request for $270,000. I know that 225,000 is set aside for the new boat,
Yes.
correct? And so what would the remainder be spent on?
So I believe that would go to planning for the UTVs and ATVs, Director Pat.
45.
45,000 for
45,000?
planning. Yeah.
So it'll be 45 for that. Where you had mentioned that in the $1 million bill from the House that you have kind of transferred those requests onto your budget. So I know on that bill it was requesting for a vehicle. Is that reflected on here?
No.
So
No.
where is that reflected?
I excluded that from
Oh, you
this proposed. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then under other expenses for $119,000, what can you share with us what that's for?
That's for homestead projects.
Homestead projects. So
Yeah.
can you
Um,
be a little bit more detailed?
Retracement of agricultural homesteads in Rhoda, like 167 plots, 10,000 square meters each.
Okay. And that so how would the money be spent?
Airfare per diem.
So that's not captured under the
and,
travel expense?
Needed supplies, yeah.
So that's a completely different expense. It's not going to be captured under travel?
Say that again.
So under other expenses, right, there's $119,000 being requested. And you had mentioned that those are for projects, homestead projects in the other municipalities, but you also mentioned travel expenses. Is that travel expenses included under other expenses or is that the
It's
60,000?
under the planning division. 119,000.
Do you have a
In
breakdown?
response to that, Chair, no. This 119 is for planning division for homestead purposes, which includes, as echoed by Director Pat earlier, for the retracement of agricultural homestead or what's this for on Tinian and Rhoda. And so this covers, and we have the breakdown for this.
Okay.
This covers their round
That
trip
would
ticket,
really-
their per diem, their fuel,
Okay.
and all those,
Okay.
what's this expenditures. But on the other hand, we do also propose 25,000 for outside the homestead for the planning division. And this includes, what's this retracement of, let's say, I mean, not retracements, but a survey of TOAs such as AGPs on Rhoda and
Okay.
Tinian, and other leases, whether it's big or small leases.
Okay, and these are going to be done in-house and not contracted out to
Yes, because we have the survey, the
Okay.
surveyors under the planning
Okay.
division, and in addition to that, it's a lot cheaper, to maintain to utilize your own, human resources than it is to contract this out to,
Yeah.
Okay.
companies. Yes.
This is a very huge project.
Okay. Um, so the 25,000 for the new boat, is that just the boat itself, or what's included in the 225?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, it's a 22-footer boat.
Okay.
Comes with a 250 engine and a boat trailer.
Okay, and there are no other associated fees that might come. This is just for the procurement of the boat itself.
Hopefully, with that 225, the cost to ship it over would be
Okay, so
embedded in it.
so is the boat going to be like shipped over here, or
More likely.
so is that included in the 225,000 ask?
We're hoping that it's within that. We've been asking quotations, and
So
It-
you
it
do
may
have
go-
quotations?
yes,
Okay, and in
It may
those
go lower
quotations,
or
are the
higher.
shipping included?
right now it's at that amount, and one of the vendor has said that it may go lower or slightly higher.
Can I ask how many quotations did you receive for this boat?
We got 4 quotations.
Okay,
However, the ideal one with the cabin that would protect our staff from the
Mhm.
elements is around that range, the
Okay.
225.
and I'm asking because I want to make sure that we don't approve the 225 and there are other associated costs like the shipping, right? Because then that you would have to find money elsewhere again to supplement that, and so I'm always mindful of. When we're, a lot of the times we purchase things not realizing that there are other components that come with it, which we didn't budget for. So I want to
Yes.
make sure that those are reflected in the budget request.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
And then did we also kind of plan how much the maintenance will be for the boat? I mean, I'm assuming it would be under the repairs and maintenance, but
Yes.
I'm looking at that and just based on my experience, I feel like that number is understated. It should have been more because if you have 19 vehicles and then the maintenance of the boat, I don't know how much the boat costs, and I don't know how frequent the boat needs to be maintained. Those are things that we need to consider when we're preparing the budget. So you want to make sure that you have ample or sufficient budget to take care of your repairs and maintenance so you don't have problems in the future that would cost more than what it would have if you just maintained it, right? So
Exactly.
I'm asking because I'm looking at like I said, I'm looking at the repairs and maintenance, and I feel after the breakdown, the 255, 500, right? We have 65,000 allocated for the vehicles and the boat. And if you have 19 vehicles, I feel like that's really not enough. I mean, we go through and if you have 6 that are in poor condition, the likelihood of you probably replacing those vehicles is likely. But I'm not, what your needs are. I'm just trying to make sure that, that when we are budgeting for these, that we are also taking into consideration the associated costs that may come with that. So,
Really appreciate
Okay.
that.
Thank you, Chair, for that. Although DPO tries to be very conservative in
Sure.
the expenditure of its budget, we also try to be very creative by being able to accommodate other what's this object classification where it lacks the necessary
Yeah.
funding.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
But,
And
and
so-
we appreciate your department being prudent about its finances. We also want to be realistic about what your real needs are,
Yes.
right? We don't want to under
Yes.
estimate and then you run into some financial
Mhm.
issues in the future. So better to have a little bit for cushion than to
Yes.
not have enough.
Yeah.
Right?
And also, I just wanted to share with the members that DPL has made several attempts to apply, through federal grants for the procurement of our boat. Unfortunately, it only went as far as the application. In fact, the last was this grant application that I think Bono and Vilma has submitted. We were denied, and in that, was this application, we have included also the purchase of a boat. But then again, the grant was very competitive and we were denied.
Okay. Insurance for 68,000. Can you tell us what that is?
The insurance is a 40,000 for our admins.
But what type of insurance?
That's vehicle insurance.
So your vehicles are insured?
Yes, vehicle insurance and
I
workman's
think you're the
comp.
first department. I hear that you guys have
Yeah.
insurance on your vehicles because everyone else is not insured.
Vehicle and liability insurance, and that
Great.
includes workman's compensation.
Okay. But on your 2023 actuals, it shows that you have 49,000 as your actual expense, and then you're asking 68 for 2025. So is there a reason for the increase?
Actually, Madam, the prices now are increasing, so
Okay,
we
you-
just have a little bit of caution, and for the additional vehicle also that we recently purchased.
But usually your insurance actually drops when you, as the year go forward because your car gets older and you've already
Yes.
used up your, the value of the car actually depreciates.
Depreciates, yeah.
So your insurance also follows. So I don't understand the rationale behind you saying that the price of the insurance goes up.
Let me check. I have a breakdown of our expenditures.
I'm trying to understand the rationale, right? Every year your car, the value of the vehicle depreciates because of, you use it, right? And it loses its value. It has a direct relationship with your insurance. Typically your insurance also decreases because of the value of the car. So I'm seeing an increase of almost more than $10,000, and your rationale doesn't seem to be justifying the increase. I mean, I can understand if your number of vehicles increased, right? So that would increase your cost for your insurance. But if you are at 19 and you don't expect to purchase more cars in FY25, well, actually you did. You said 2. Yeah. But $10,000 more in insurance. Yeah. And it's only liability, not okay.
So perhaps one of the reasons, no, Chair, that our premium goes up for this proposed fiscal years in anticipation of the purchase of a boat, perhaps.
Okay, so you're gonna have insurance on the boat as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely, yes.
Have you started inquiring, the ballpark figure for what the insurance might cost for a boat?
We did. We just don't have the
Okay.
information at this
Okay.
point in time,
As
but
long
we can
as
provide.
long as you have a basis of what that amount is going to be, then, like I said, if everything is justified, there's really no reason to. But just helping us understand what the figures represent is of great help to us, because we don't have to have these, questions in our mind. So. Okay, and you said the rental offices includes Road and Tinian, right? Okay. On your balance sheet, you have can we go back to the revenues that you guys project for 2025? So what was the revenue projections that you submitted to the governor's office for long-term leases?
It's 5.5, right?
The total about budget is 5.5, but there is for leases, I have a breakdown.
Okay. So she has the information.
Okay.
For 2025 long-term leases, the forecast for 3,552,760. For BGR is 449,300. Long-term royalty is 600. Temporary permit is
600K for
338
long term
and 330. This
or royalty.
Long-term royalty.
Okay,
Yes.
long term. Okay.
This summary that I am mentioning now is comprised of the 3 islands, Saipan, Rota, and Tinian.
So 3.5 total. I mean,
3
so what
point-
is the total revenues that you project?
The revenue is equal the operations 5 million
So 5.5.
566,75.
So everything that you generate in revenues, you anticipate to spend the
It's-
entire.
It's a balanced budget.
It's okay. So then, how much would you remit to MPLT if it's a balanced budget?
We are very conservative on our costs. So although we budgeted our operations this amount, we still have to monitor our cost or expenditures. We don't spend up to the last dollar.
So is it safe to say that that for FY25 MPLT will, based on what you have submitted, it's a balanced budget. MPLT shouldn't expect to receive anything.
We just hoping that the economy will be okay, and the BGR will be increased, and there's no more leases, TPs that will withdraw from their agreement.
Okay. In your FY25, did we exclude Hyatt?
No, it is included.
But they only paid up until December.
December, yeah. They prepaid for the whole year from January to December.
Right, but this is
And-
fiscal year, so it ends in September. So that only gives you 3 months of prepaid.
Yes. So that's our loss for 3 months if they will not. Oh, but if they will stay here up to December, that will still be the revenue of the fiscal year 2025.
Right.
What we lost is January
So,
to
so it's
September.
prorated then. So the
Yes.
whatever the proration is the prepaid amount has been prorated into FY25.
Yes.
Okay. So can you give us the breakdown then per island? So you have 5.5 in revenues total. How much is Saipan?
For Saipan, the total revenue is 5,321,693. For Rota is 56,110. For Tinian is 188,272. And that's a total of $5,566 and $75.
And so for Tinian, can you, which public lands are being leased there?
Mobile.
You to Director Bonnie.
Yeah.
So most of our leases on Tinian would be the IT&E leases. We have the quarries, and most of them are the actual permits.
So we're anticipating of only 188,000
Yes.
for land leases. Okay. Okay.
And let me go back a little bit when you ask if, after what's this, the revenues that we generated or proposed to generate the next fiscal year at 5.5, and you, what's this, mentioned that, okay, does DPO intend to,
Remit.
use that whole amount, then there's nothing for MPOT. That may not necessarily be the case again, because DPO is always conservative as to its expenses. And so, if we do not spend the whole proposed budget, definitely whatever
It's left.
is whatever is the remaining balance of that will.
I'm just
be
going
related over to
off of
MPOT, yeah.
what it
And
looks
yes,
on the surface.
Yes, and the reason why this proposed budget was designed this way is because we were given the advice by the by OMB that the projected revenue is supposed to, be equivalent, supposed to synchronize with the proposed
Right,
budget
but I
for each
think in
fiscal year.
DPL's case, it's different, right? Because there's always that understanding that whatever is remaining is remitted over to MPOT.
That
I
is-
understand for all the other departments, but I think DPL is a little different.
That is correct. So at the end of the fiscal year, whatever is balanced after all
Okay.
our administrative
I mean,
costs
if
and-
it's true, if it's justified, I have no issue with it.
Yes,
I'm just trying to understand.
yes.
and
And so far, we
anticipate.
have been remitting over to MPLT.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of remitting, after the $50 million line of credit was passed and approved, right? My understanding is that there was a payment remitted to MPOT shortly after. And if so, how much was remitted to MPOT and what was it for?
The first remittance that we made was 500,000. Then it
500,000?
yes, and then it followed the 4 million,
So about 4.5 was remitted
4.5 altogether.
at two different payments?
Two different payments.
Same period?
Same year.
Same year.
Yeah.
About what month?
This year. 1
1
January, the 500, and then
Okay.
I think the
April.
April
On April.
26 is the 4 million.
Okay.
26, 2024.
Okay.
April 26, 2024.
And those payments were for
advance payment,
advance payment for what?
meaning since the audit is not yet done, and we usually remit the net of operations, so that's all. That's advance payment for whatever the net
Has
of
DPO
operations.
ever done an advance payment before?
Yes, once they request the funds.
So
Like one time-
once MPOT requests the funds?
It's not in PLT, it's through the government.
Who,
If they need
who in the
money.
government
Like
requested?
like this 4 million, right? Say it's the government. The 4 million, the advance. It's
The remittance.
yeah. The 4 million is that's the one they need for the 15.
I mean, what's the process? Remittance is usually done after the audit.
Yes.
So that's why I'm asking: has the this advance payment been done in the past? Is this the first time it's ever been?
This is the
Process-
second,
is
I
it-
think second time. The first time was when they asked for 5 million. That was 2014, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
proceeds.
2020 when CUC needed money, and then the governor requested for DPL to remit 5 million
As an advance payment.
as an advance payment.
And then was that reconciled after the audit was done?
yes,
And was it 5 million?
it is deducted every year
Right.
whatever
So,
the
but there was
net
an
of
advance
operations.
payment of 5 million when the audit was done. What was there any variance between what was audited and what was actually paid out?
Yes, because there's we will record that as an advance until it really offsets the exact
Okay, so
amount.
you do offset.
Yes.
So in this instance, this year where you paid out an advance of $4.5 million, is this for what year?
It's going to be offsetted if there is a balance on 2023, it will be offsetted 23, 24, or 25, because 22, I think it's still deficit. We cannot remit any.
Okay, so based on that
Mhm.
explanation, then MPLT shouldn't really expect any remittance because you paid them in advance
Yes.
without the actual audit being done and
Yes.
knowing what the true numbers are.
Yes, madam.
Okay, thank you. Under cash and cash equivalent, there's for $6.9 million. Right? That's what you're showing right now as of April 30, you had $6.9 million in the account. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, the cash and cash equivalent for
It's 6.9.
yeah, is 6,945,424 and 61.
Would you happen to have the preliminary number for as of July 30?
Oh, July
Or July
30.
30?
Oh no,
first?
not yet.
Not yet?
madam.
You haven't? Okay.
No.
What is your year-to-date expense?
Year-to-date expense
As
for
I guess through April 30.
our
Year-to-date
year-to-date is
is about-
3,907 and 718 expenses, payroll and accounts payable.
Okay. So as of April 30, you have about 6.9 in cash and cash equivalents, and then your expenditures through April is 3 point something?
Three
Or is it?
Three-
Are you saying the 3 point
as
million?
of July,
As of-
our
okay.
expenditure is 3,409
So there's still a little bit of-
907
Okay. So there's still
781.
what? So there's still about 2 million, a little bit over 2 million left in your cash,
Yes.
but that's not including collections that were collected from May through July, because it's not reflected on here, right? You've given me the year-to-date expense through July
Mhm.
in over a little bit over 3 million, and as of April, you still have 6.9, right? So that leaves a little bit over 2 million, but your cash that was collected from May through July is not reflected on here, so it could be a little bit more.
Yes.
It's definitely a little bit more than 2 million.
Because our collections for leases and TPs as of July is 6 million around 18,000,
Okay.
and if you minus that to our expenditures, it's like we have 2,110,000.
So what is your average quarterly expense?
Our average for quarterly, I average it for monthly. Around monthly is
so monthly
payroll is 240, and then accounts payable is around, if you didn't have those contract and big amounts, it's around 100 some, around 150.
Okay, so 150
So around
times
300
3. Okay, so you
1
have
million.
for the fourth quarter, you're estimating about 450,000 in expenses, which still leaves you a lot of money left in the under cash, right? Is
Yes,
what? Okay.
yes, it's a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, we are expecting to remit maybe a little bit, around
So
less than 1 million.
For the remainder of the year, we're looking at about 450,000.
Yes.
Okay. Under restricted cash of there's 2.7. What is this account for? What is the restriction for?
Restricted is the security deposit of the leases, madam.
Okay, so security deposit. Okay. And then you have a prepaid of 4.5. What are the prepaids?
Prepaid. This is prepaid.
right?
No, there are some prepaid for CUC, but not much.
For prepaid,
Deferred prepaid. I think this prepaid, why this is expense. I think this is an error. This is not supposed
it's a
to
prepaid expense, so you paid in advance for
be.
something.
Yeah, so this asset, yeah.
Oh, prepaid.
Yeah, prepaid.
Is that the?
The 4 million.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
4
for
million and
MPLT.
500. Yes.
That's for MPLT, Chair.
Yeah.
And I guess, they just use the word prepaid because maybe they couldn't find any other classification in order for it to go into muni, so they just put prepaid.
Yeah, this
Right?
is the 4,500,000.
Okay. I still think it's wrong. You booked it incorrectly in the wrong account because prepaid means it's advance. I mean, I know it's an advance payment to MPOT, but you put it in the wrong category. So you just need to reclassify it.
classification from?
Prepaid is advanced also.
Well, but how did you get the word prepaid from where? Munis?
Accounting.
Oh. Sorry, Chair.
It's
It was just
okay.
a word that derived from
It's
the
okay. Normally,
accounting division.
Accounting
prepaid expenses are for like rentals
term.
or insurance or anything that you pay in advance and then you use it later, right? But in this case, the prepaid expense to MPOT, you're not going to use
Yeah,
it later.
that's not should be expense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Should be advanced payment.
Yes. Other liabilities, you have 896,000. Can you tell us what these liabilities are and why they're still sitting in your payables?
The other liabilities, one of these is the due to Kagman. We receive Kagman's revenues and it is maintained by DPL, and then when they purchase their equipment or any expenditures that they needed, they process the PO and PR, and
But it's a liability to DPL?
it's liability to the company.
To which company?
The LNR Kagman farm plots.
But it's showing on your books as a liability. That means you're expected to pay it.
Yes, we owe them because that's not DPL's revenue. We receive the revenue. We
So unearned revenue? Because you received revenue, but you have yet to
It's
expense?
unearned revenue is the what we recognize as unearned revenue is the prepayment of the leases, and we have been
You have
using
prepayment of leases?
Yes,
For which leases?
any leases that they pay prepayment, like Hyatt, they paid in
Okay,
advance.
so Hyatt
Yes,
is okay.
like World Resort, they paid in advance. Crown Plaza, they paid in advance. So
Okay.
we just
So that's what the unearned revenue is then on here.
yes.
Of $1.4 million. Okay. So we have World Resort, Crown Plaza, Hyatt, and who?
And some small leases
Okay. Can you provide us with a breakdown later?
of the
Yeah,
okay,
your unearned revenues. No?
unearned revenue.
Yes. And that's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any other member? Recognize Senator Mendiola.
So, thank you, Chair. Mine, I think the Chair just asked a lot of the detail, which is fine. So I'm just gonna kind of try and shed some light on the positive aspect of DPL and some of these revenue that we're expecting. So like I kind of just wanted to ask about, like, let's say Rota Resort, Moranis Resort, like, is there any plans, any anticipation on these investment happening and where we stand in this? So just wanted to just kind of fill us in on that, if you may.
Thank you, Chair. In response to the former Marianas Resort, if was this turned over to, just across the aisle here, you would see, right, Senator Corina, whom I believe has received by now a copy of the proposed lease for the former Marianas Resort by Elan. So that's the status of that. So again, the ball is in your court now. As well as for Ocean, again, we're talking about pending maybe proposed leases that are here. So we have Core Ocean and the former Marianas Resort. Now with regards to the Rhoda Resort, I'd like to you over to Director Bonnie in terms of that particular lease. So, Director Bonnie.
Yes, sure. Senator, I'm happy to, say that tomorrow our notice of the notice for the RFP will be out for Rhoda Resort.
And the reason why I wanted to ask that, because we're talking about budget, and it's a lot of this. This is the upside of some of the things that you guys are working on. So I would like for our constituents that are watching to hear that there's some work that's being done, and this is the upside of hopefully securing some of these investments, and it'll help us in terms of revenue. So I want thank you for that. I wanted to you.
Oh, and I wanted to add also, we are working on proposed lease for Papa
Okay.
Resort. That's on Rhoda too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and
so
other,
so there's a proposed lease for Papa Hotel as well.
Yes. Yes.
Outstanding. And that's not finalized, right? So I'm sure we'll see it through her committee maybe when the time comes. So
Yes.
that's good. And then I saw that you guys extended Manyagaha, or is that Manyagaha? You guys extended that that investment from July to August. Is it what is that?
Hyatt, I think.
Hyatt. I'm
Hyatt.
sorry, Hyatt.
So I'm not sure what you're referring to. That August 31st date is up in the air, where Hyatt proposed to, close its, basically terminate the lease.
Okay, so
But
there.
but like I mentioned earlier, we have not received
There's
an
no-
official notice.
Okay, so there's no official notice. And is
Right.
there a official inquiry to Hyatt? Like anybody interested in Hyatt that you guys are aware of? Just
As of right now, we cannot entertain any interest
Okay.
because the lease
because this is still
it's
exists.
still,
Okay,
Portopia still has the rights to the property.
okay.
Are
Thank you.
they in violation of the current lease, though?
So yeah, that will be with compliance.
There are a few violations, such as the public benefit, which is the 5,000 scholarship program, and that's for over 3 years already. If I'm not mistaken, 3 years.
Okay.
And I believe I think that's just about it.
And have they? So have you taken any action to in terms of revocation, if that's the case?
Yeah, so there is a 250,000 security deposit that they turned in. And in the event that, we move to cancel the lease, then we can take that out of the security deposit.
Okay, but seeing as how things are up in the air without any final determination or final decision to terminate, why hasn't DPL taken that step to terminate if they're already in violation? I mean, every day that they're not operating is every day we're losing out on revenue that, like Senator Mendiola had mentioned, if there are interested investors that could come in and take over, then why haven't we taken any action?
Well, yeah, we're working with Portopia, and hopefully we can look at that avenue.
Okay.
Yeah,
Senator Mendiola.
yeah, it's also under legal review right now.
Okay, and I guess this is just going back to just a lot of the situation that we've been facing. So alongside the chairman's question, for example, Rhoda Resort, it dragged on for a long time when we know that they have been in violation for, not just in recent times, but they've been in violation for a long time. And then it just dragged on to a point where even when we were ready to push forward with new investment, right, it just didn't give us that opportunity because now it became a court matter. So, and again, this is not DPL per se. It's really just a lot of legal matters that are surrounding this investment. But nonetheless, it's still an opportunity for our people to, especially let's say the people of Rhoda have been waiting for this new investment, new opportunity, and hopefully we can increase our revenue too for Rhoda so that we can benefit, our people can benefit. So that's just one of the reasons why I pointed that out. So thank you for that. I yield, Chair.
Thank you, Senator Mendola. Any other member? Recognize Senator King Neighbors.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, Secretary Santos. I see you again, and staff. I just had a real brief question regarding the memorandum of agreement regarding DPL and DLNR. Is that still in place? I know it was effectuated in 2023, I believe.
So with that, are you to Director Pat is not here? Are you to Director Greg? Oh,
Can you repeat that, Senator, again?
Yes, sir. So there was a memorandum of agreement that was signed between DPL and DMR regarding parks and recs and the maintenance on some of the sites. It was the copy I have began in February of 2023, and I was wondering, could you give us a status report on its current state and also possibility of extending the memorandum of agreement to the first and second senatorial districts?
Okay, thank you, Senator, for that question. So for the MOA that was signed last year, those were services that was going to be maintained for the Camp Pacific and other areas that DPO directed. Yeah. So they sent us a billing, and what they did was they sent us the entire billing of the entire staff. But it was just for the staff that performed the work, at Camp Pacific. So we wrote to them and we said, well, this is our logbook. This is what the number of people work. And we believe that, you need to revise your invoice to be consistent with what our logbook says. Regarding the first and second senatorial district, yes. Oh, you too, Secretary.
Before I respond to you with respect to the first and second senatorial districts MOA, I'd like to you over to Director Pat. Yeah, for the memorandum of agreement between DPO and the third senatorial district.
Okay, so we were requested to see if we could carry Parks and Rec employees. And my response was, no, we cannot. We're only allowed to spend our funds for administrative costs. It would have to be something like for services rendered. And we did need their assistance for Camp Pacific and Maniagaha. We have a copy of the MOA, but instead of giving us the invoicing for the number of days that they came to work, the number of people, we got a complete payroll sheet from top to bottom. Can't do that. But for whatever invoice that came in, some came in, right? We paid them like over $30,000. Yeah, altogether.
So, Director Evelyn, do you want to put some?
The billing that they sent to us in 2023 was the services rendered from March 2023 to July 2023, and a total of 31,887. And that's the last one that they have submitted. And according to compliance, since then, they never reported to work at Can Pacific.
What about the audit of
And in addition to that, based on the 2020 audit, Deloitte cited DPL for paying the Parks and Recs, and which is not supposed to be and constitutionally, and they noted that that amount that we paid to Parks and Recs in 2020 during the pandemic should have been remitted to MPLT.
Could you provide a little bit of background as to why the agreement was solely for Can Pacific property?
Can you repeat that, please?
Could you give us an understanding of why the MOA was specifically for that property, the Can Pacific?
They weren't really making it, they were having problems. So we tried to assist any way we can. And given that we see the need for assistance with our vacant lot, it's a very big area. We just don't have the manpower. Instead of contracting it out, we figure we could utilize some of Parks and Recs people to come and assist us, and we would pay a certain percentage of their salary as compensation. 50%, I think it was, yeah. But there's so many,
So-
they needed to come to report to the secretary so that we know we can account for how many people are going there and for how many hours is being put in. That never happened. Sometimes one or two people would show up, sometimes nothing throughout the week, correct? Yeah. And so it's just not wasn't
Just
working.
point of clarification, I just wanted to make sure that it's clear that, but administratively, we can do this,
We can if it's for services rendered,
services rendered,
Yes.
but not
but not
necessarily
to pay for their
salary,
payroll or no, we can't.
but for services.
Yes.
So in other words, you can contract the services out.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So Senator Karina, may I respond first and then, okay? So yeah, in reply to, your question, so what happens with the first and second senatorial district are basically the same. DPO went down to, the first senatorial district met with the municipality and we wanted to extend the same MOA. Unfortunately, it was, brought to our attention that Delaware Parks and Rec Rhoda would not be able to perform these services on behalf of DPO because they lack the for the human resources, including the equipment. And so DPO also went down to Tinian. We sat with the municipalities for the same reason. Yes. And because of that, we were not able to execute this MOA. Yes.
Point of clarification. So can we revisit that? And should we sit with the mayor or the department? Can we revisit that for an opportunity to collaborate on that specific task for
Sure.
MOA?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes. We still have the draft MOA.
Okay,
Yes.
thank
And
you.
we can always revisit, the same, what's this, the same matter, the same issue. Uh-huh.
And does it have to be parks, or can it be another? Does it have to be any restriction on specific employees that can do that, or can, like, let's say for example, can we work with the mayor's office to do
so
that? Or
this one, so the MOA is only supposed to be between DPL and Delaware Parks and Rec. The reason being is because the functions that DPL requires it's more appropriate to execute this MOA between DPL and Delaware.
Okay.
Yes.
But there's no specific restriction, meaning we can that specific requirement that DPO has, we can push that to, let's say for example, the council, or let's say for example the mayor's office, or let's say for example DPW, who performs some of the similar.
If the functions are
is
similar, I think that then can be considered.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Just.
But I will have to go back again and get some guidance on that.
Okay. Sure. Thank you, Secretary.
Recognize Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Just some follow-up questions. So help me understand what is the scope of the MOA between DPL and Parks and Rec, and what was the duration of that MOA?
It was to assist the Department of Public Lands to maintain the grounds,
Okay, so
At
ground
Can
maintenance.
Pacific.
Okay.
as well as Manyagaha.
Oh, so they also clean Manyagaha.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I may add, that was before the awarding of the concessionaire.
Okay. So now that we have a concessionaire there, we no longer need their services. Okay. And then what was the duration of the MOA?
When did it start?
Was it for just the FY for that specific?
So
fiscal
with the
year,
with the initial MOA, there's no expiration.
or- Okay, so it's
Yes.
open.
It's
Yes.
open yes.
until
It's open,
either
but we
Until
know
either
we
party
need the
terminates.
services.
got it. Okay. So with that being understood, was if what you're saying is that administratively you can pay for services rendered but not salaries, that's why I was trying to understand the
Correct.
scope. Because in the MOA, was there an understanding that 50% of their salaries was going to be paid by DPL?
MOA, Chair, is very clear that it's supposed to be only for services provided or rendered. There was never any mention of salaries, and the reason being is because, again, let me repeat that DPL in its 2020 audit was
Mhm.
cited by a public auditor that DPL is not, cannot pay for salaries if it is not DPL's employees.
So is that
And
the
the reason-
understanding?
And the reason for that, again, Chair, again, is just to comply, with DPL statutory and constitutional obligations that
Mhm.
after all its operational expenditures, surveying, homestead, and reasonable, necessarily reasonable expenditures, that after that remittance of, revenues, or remittance of anything after that shall be remitted over to MPLT.
Okay. So is that the same understanding as Parks and Rec or DLNR? That the personnel was not going to be subsidized, a percentage of their personnel cost was not going to be subsidized by DPL?
So I guess, there's just different
I think
interpretations
there's a
of that MOA.
misunderstanding.
But then we stand with, we stand by Public Law 15-2, as well as, DPL's mandates that after
Okay.
all your expenditures at the end of the fiscal year, whatever's the balance, should be remitted over to MPLT. Anything in contrary to that can be, challenged.
Sure.
Can be challenged, right?
So, so the understanding on the MOA is that Parks and Rec will submit a monthly invoice to DPL for payment?
So it was the understanding
Yes.
that DLNR Parks and Rec shall be submitting over to DPL its invoices.
Right, it's invoices
Uh-huh.
along with all the supporting documents, such
Yes,
as their
supporting
timesheets,
documents, as the
and-
timesheets,
and
yes.
the
uh-huh,
dates that they
yes,
were there, and
yes.
okay.
But then again, DPL looks forward to working with DLNR Parks and Rec.
Sure.
Yes,
Okay. I think there was just a misunderstanding. I think
Yeah, I mean,
based on my conversations with them, I was told that there was this understanding that DPO was supposed to pay a percentage of their personnel.
yes, that is clear in the MOA, 50%. However, that 50% shall be based on services provided and not salary. Going back again to, the findings of the audit, and we don't want to go against, what has been very clearly indicated in Public Law 15-2 and DPL's obligation,
Okay.
constitutional obligation that at the end of the fiscal year, we must remit over to MPLT.
Okay. And then when did you say was the last time they were there? Was it March?
July.
Oh, July.
23.
So who's maintaining now that, so they're no longer going to the property to maintain?
So, Madam Chair, the last invoice we got was for July of last year, or from March to July. They have been coming, maybe about one or two staffs. This was probably in May of this year. But we just, at that time, it was a dry season, so they kind of like just offered their assistance to us. And we paid them with gas and other, bush cutter lines and
Okay.
those kind of matters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Geez, I just forgot my line of thought. So then maybe that kind of explains, because the issue was brought to my attention from Parks and Rec that apparently they've been submitting invoices to DPO and DPO refuses to pay them. But then maybe that clarifies, maybe he just needs to schedule a meeting with you to sit down and really understand the rationale behind the non-payment.
We have been meeting with them. They just don't.
With the director of
They're not hearing it.
Okay. Okay, because they're asking for my help.
Yeah, no,
But,
but we want to, collaborate with DLNR.
Sure.
We want to help.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
and yes, there's always, again, time for us to sit down and try to go over this and address it amicably. But however, we just have to work within the parameters of the law
Sure.
and not be challenged, And
So what's plan B for for DPL if Parks and Rec is not really maintaining the grounds at that property, is there a budget set aside for DPL to contract out the work? Because it has to be maintained, right? Otherwise, we will have an overgrown vegetation.
Yes, so on our repairs and maintenance, we have budgeted that.
Okay, so it's
yes.
included in the repairs and maintenance?
Yes.
Okay.
And
okay.
the operational supplies as well.
And does DPO actually go and check the property to to make sure that it is like when they submit their invoice and say they did this, like do you guys just randomly check if it's really the grass is being cut and
Yes, our
maintain?
staff are
Okay.
there to log those
Okay.
personnel from DLNR.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Since we have the SA for OMB present with us, in the current fiscal year, they're only budgeted for 50%. And so if they're not submitting their billing to DPL, how else are they being funded currently?
What's that? Can you rephrase your question
Oh,
again?
sorry,
Chair?
my question was to the SA for OMB. Thank you, Ms. Vicky, for joining us today.
Good afternoon, members and fellow colleagues from DPL. So we had a meeting not too long ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago. We had a meeting with DPL and DLNR to try to iron out the problem between the invoices. So there was an invoice that was prepared for, I believe it was somewhere around 390 some thousand for cleaning the parks and the beaches area. I believe that was part of the billing. But I saw that there was a deficiency in the billing because it was just a summary and the details were not provided. So I asked them to go back and, put something together and then have another opportunity to sit with them again to go through. But yes, the MOA, there's that MOA that exists. It's an open-ended MOA, and it's not only for Mariana's Resort or Can Pacific or Maniagaha, but it also indicated for the preservations of, the parks. And if you look at the big picture of where the community benefits the most, the parks and the beaches are often visited or, occupied by our residents. They go to the parks and the beaches. But if you go to Camp Pacific, nobody's there. The facility is closed, and it doesn't benefit the general public right now. What benefits the general public is the parks and the beaches. And therefore, I believe that the services that were provided by Parks and Recreation is an eligible cost that DPL can pay for, because these are the areas that are needed to be maintained for our community to continue to occupy them, as well as ensuring that the public lands on the roadways are clean and maintained, so that our island doesn't look like a jungle. But I hope that there will be a resolution for whatever that invoice, if they can just come up with the listing. I mean, because they have records of, that why would the initial invoice be approved and not even consider the second whatever the invoice that they have pending, and that was because there was a deficiency. So hopefully DLNR can put all the details together so that it can be paid. But as far as like the 50%, we're still relying on the MOA that be considered, and invoke for the use of the services that's provided by DLNR.
Thank you, Missy. Is it,
My understanding is Can Pacific, Manyagaha, Parks and Recreation area has always been Parks and Rec under DLNR. It's never been the responsibility of Department of Public Lands. And so I don't know how we're going to deal with that, once it gets to us. Why are we paying for something that is not under our department? That's what we're I don't know how to deal with that.
but the same can be said for like roadside and stuff like that, right? I mean, those are under your
No, there's the matter of fact,
jurisdiction.
there's even, there's a public law, designating the areas. I believe it's 11459 for Parks and Recs. This is public law 11106, yeah. Okay. 20-52. We have also public law 20-52. DPW.
If I may,
Yeah.
I don't think it's more of just the respective department's responsibility, but more of a collaborative effort between DPO and other agencies. And the reason why this is like a factor right now is just because, of course, the revenue is really hampered right now. So it's how can we avail to those services where we're not compromising DPO's fiduciary responsibility, but we're helping other agencies. So I think this is the reason why a lot of these questions are coming up. It's like, how can we tap into this? And God forbid we're going to touch DPL's money, and I'm sure nobody's ever wants or nobody's going to ever agree to just go ahead and take my funding for and cut, reduce my capability. But I think the committee's biggest thing, and even the OMB, is that we're just trying to find a way where we can just work together, especially in the next fiscal year, because the funding is really, really tight. So that's really all we're trying to illustrate here.
But even so, I mean, if the MOU is that DPL covers 50%, then rather than waiting for them to submit an invoice, can DPL go in and say, "Hey, I need this place maintained"? Is that something that you, DPL funding for the other half, can go in and be like, "Can we get assistance as to maintaining certain areas within your jurisdiction?"
Yes, Senator, but we have to work with their schedules as well, because they have their own priorities. And, whenever we arrange something.
I understand that, but you're covering half their time, right? So whether it be 1 week of a pay period that they work under Parks and Recs, and then the next week of that pay period they work for you guys, I think it has to be, conveyed between the Secretary of DLNR and the Secretary here. When we're talking about 50%, we're talking about half the time, right? And so rather than sit around and wait for an invoice, I think it would be prudent that both agencies are proactive in saying like, "Hey, here's my guys for the next half of the pay period. So assign them to however you see would benefit the Department of Public Lands." And because if we're going to apply this same and continue to provide in the provision to also cover positions for Rhoda and Tinian, then we would certainly give you that authority to go in there and request for these services to be rendered to address some of the needs of your department. I mean, Rhoda, for example, I mean, your staff is very limited, and I don't think they can cover the entire area of what you guys monitor, such as the resort. I mean, drive through Rhoda Resort right now and see what has been neglected. Is that something that you could utilize half the time of Parks and Recs to help maintain access to the resort? I mean, I don't know if that's something that you would have to work with the secretary or the department head.
So I mentioned that earlier, Mr. Chairman. Note that we did we went down to Rhoda, we sat down with the municipality and DLNR, resident director and Parks and Rec. But then again, they came back with a response that there's just no way that we can do it. We lack the necessary manpower and that we just don't have the machinery. And the same, our response we got on the Tinian. For that reason, we were not able to execute these MOAs.
Yeah, but so what we're saying is that if we cut Parks and Rec's budget by 50% and force them to use their employee, not force, but assign their employees to DPL for half the time, then I mean these are for the maintenance of your property. So I would assume that you would also provide some sort of equipment. I mean, you're asking for equipment here. I mean, that's something that I'm sure you can provide. So
the type of equipment that they're looking for is like the riding mower. I do not know how much they cost, but I'm very sure that they cost a fortune. Several other capital items, and there's just no way that we can afford that. They were not budgeted for this fiscal year.
I know, and that's
And
why we're
so-
here, right? So if I say let's get rid of the boat for now, since you have a working boat, I mean, albeit it'll be.
But definitely a
you would
boat is an
appreciate.
urgent. I mean,
I know, but
boat
that's
out
what I'm
there,
saying, and
yes,
that's why
uh-huh.
we're here to determine what are those needs, so we
Uh-huh,
can ensure that
And-
you're budgeted for those needs, as opposed to taking some of these monies back and giving it to MPOT. We're not hearing that if that's what you need for Rhoda or Tinian, then let's give it to you. If that's what you need to maintain your properties, and let's give that to you.
So in that regard, how about what's this passing the legislation that was that was proposed by the former Speaker of the House, BJ Attao, so that perhaps we can use portions of that for the purchase of these machinery, so that we can provide that for the maintenance of these big properties until such time maybe that they are being leased out.
Thank you. I mean, that's certainly something that we can consider. But again, this is where, I mean, I'm proposing these ideas that I've not heard from DPO. And so if that's something that you feel that you would like to propose, then we would appreciate getting the additional requests for that, to be able to use that additional 1 million. Otherwise, right now it's being proposed to MPOT.
So I think that's a matter of maybe it's a matter to pick up next maybe meeting.
That's certainly one way to approach it, but because now the House have already included within the fiscal year budget, it's within the budget right now, which is this one meeting that we're going to have absent or aside and separate from the House bill that is in committee also. So there's two ways to address it, whether we address it now within the budget or we address it as a separate legislation. But it looks like it was something that was already included within the current budget. And so I think, again, going back to what the essay for OMB had mentioned in regards to the MOU, I think that's something that should be revisited. If the members here feel that this is a provision that we will continue to, that we will maintain for the following fiscal year, and that Fish and or Parks and Recs will be provided or will be funded partially by the general fund and partially by the public DPL. And so if that's the case, depending upon what the members will decide come budget deliberation time, I hope that that's something that your department can work with DLNR to carry out the mandate that will be in the budget, and that is to also provide your office with more authority to tap into these resources that will become available. I'm not sure if this was mentioned during the vice chair's questions, but under other expenses, you listed 119,000. Can you elaborate on that? 119,000.
So that was previously asked by Chair Magofne.
Can you clarify?
Are you over to Director Pat?
Yeah, these are for our surveyors to go down to Rhoda as well as Tinian to retrace about 197 agricultural lots at 10,000 square meters each. We've estimated approximately 16 weeks to complete the project.
So
And
what would the
that's how-
119 be used for when you already have travel expenses?
Huh?
You're saying it's for your employees to travel to these islands. So
Yes, to perform the.
so this would be in addition
retracements.
to the travel expense that you've proposed?
Yeah, for airfare, per diem, cargo.
So in addition to the 60,000 that you're already requesting for travel,
I don't understand.
you're already requesting 60,000 for travel.
Yeah.
So you need
It's,
the 119,000 additional for travel.
No, these are for the outside. The 119 is strictly for 119,000 is strictly for Rhoda Agricultural Homestead. Now, we have another one, travel at 25,000. That's 15,000 going to Rhoda, 10,000 going to Tinian for all other survey work necessary outside of the homestead, such as encroachment issues, or maybe someone wants to lease public land that needs parceling, some temporary authorization such as quarries, and there's always something, that our surveyors needs to go and do
Okay.
outside of homestead projects.
Since we're in Homestead, the 847,000 for Doogie, what source of revenue is that coming from? Or what grant is that?
Okay. What is it?
The Doogie Waterline Project.
What's the asking? Can you repeat that, please?
The earlier it was mentioned that 847,000 in grants was for Doogie
Yes, that is correct, and that is by CIP.
CAP. Have you identified funding for the FNAFA Homestead?
This is for the agricultural homestead from
No.
Asnieves, Campapa, Tetson, Doogie, all of those.
Right. Have you
Yeah.
identified funding for
Because at one
infrastructure
point,
for
they
FNAFA?
had put a stop to it because of the endangered species.
Okay.
But since that has already been dealt with, we now have the time for the guys to go down and retrace them because they're all heavily vegetated that we cannot issue permits without, those boundary markers.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, in response, so the $847,000 is for the Doogie Homestead subdivision, a water line. There has no federal funds or grants that have been identified for the FNAFA Homestead subdivision. Those subdivisions have already been allotted and assigned, but the permits have yet to be issued, again pending the
Water.
erection or the establishment of the infrastructures in that.
But how would they
area.
ever get that permit when there's no infrastructure?
Well, that's just it. It is for this reason that the permits were never executed because the infrastructures were not there.
What efforts have been made to identify funding for the infrastructure?
So, well, that's a very good question. And so, are you over to Abano?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have met with several agencies, CIP and CUC, to try to fund or get grants to fund for infrastructure. CIP does not have any funds for infrastructure at the moment, and then CUC they're trying to find ways to avail of those grants.
Okay. And how much is needed to
Yes.
connect that area?
Yes. I'm sorry?
How much is needed? To
Oh, how
connect
much
that
is
area?
needed?
Yeah.
I don't have the ballpark figure right now.
So I have the breakdown here, Mr. Chairman. And so for Doogie and FNAFA, we would need about 4.8 million for water and about 1.7 million for power. And for Tinian, for West San Jose and Marple Heights, for water, we need 6.9 million, and for power, we need about 14.7 million. And for Saipan at Asgono, we need 3.3 million for water, and for Kakman, we need at least 0.4 million for water. So it's roughly about 88 some million that we're looking for just infrastructures for all these subdivisions and all these areas.
Okay. Do you know if any of these will be at least partially covered by next round of CIP funding for next fiscal year?
We do not have that information, but I extract or, contact the CIP office or us to get that information, whether or not some of these, water and power have been perhaps considered for the next CIP funding?
Okay.
Yes, please.
And then this 220 revegetation grant, what is that for?
So that's for all the quarries here on the Sinamay. So all the quarries that are abandoned currently, just to revegetate them, so that there won't be we can use basically erosion and all that issues to stop those.
Okay. Speaking of quarry, looking at the Tinian projections for next fiscal year, based on all the construction activity, well, first of all, why is it that the long-term lease decreased from last year? And do we have any new leases since then?
So in response to the first question, it's a result of, the termination of some big leases. And yes, the real estate division is closely working with, our Tinian DPO office to facilitate some of those leases that have been requested for. There's been an increase in the number of quarry TOAs that have been processed. And so
We have currently 2 in process right now for quarry. And we do have the mobile Tinian that has been, that is in process right now, that was transferred from CPA back to DPO. We also have ITNE requests for solar farms. So that's incoming.
So we should be anticipating, a greater revenue projection for the second senatorial district.
And that's not something that you can project right now and include in your budget?
No, we can't.
And what are these royalties? What do they consist of? The
Royalties
royalty.
are from the quarry operation.
And so you're only projecting a 35,000 increase for next fiscal year for Tinian?
That's based on the active quarries that we have.
More than likely, again, because of the, the number of applications that have been submitted for quarry activities.
Okay.
Chair for me.
Sure.
So just to be clear, you guys are projecting 85,000, but there are some other activities that could be in process and effectuated by next year that might fluctuate that number.
We hope so. And again, because of the military presence and Tinian and the demand in, these mining materials.
Can I ask what is your, just rough estimate in your guys' opinion in the event the 2 that are currently being requested?
Quarries, each quarry will bring in $12,000 annually. That's just base rent. That doesn't include the royalties or BGR.
Okay, and have we any more? Sorry, my last question before I pass it over. How much do you expect to remit to MPOT at the end of this fiscal year, based on any excess in excess revenue or collections?
So just a rough estimate, Chair, and the number may change. So more than likely, it's maybe 0.5 million.
0.5 million?
Yeah, like $500,000.
So the
More than likely.
unaudited report ending fiscal year April 30, 2024, it's indicating 2.7 million in excess of revenues?
Up to April.
May, June, July, August, September, May, June, July, August, September.
Yes. As of July, like we are looking at 2,110,000 is the excess, not including the expenditures for August and September.
2 million in, sorry, 2 point what?
2,110,000.
That's your expected revenue as of July?
And the expected revenue for August and July is around 500,000.
And how much will your expenses be for
The expenses is payroll for per month is for 2 paydays is 240, and accounts payable around 150 a month, so that's around 300.
So if you're already 2 million in excess, why will you only be remitting 500,000?
There is what is that? Where's- where is that? It's around 1 million when we calculate it.
Yeah, you gotta put it on record. Just say that you mistakenly, you miscalculated and you wanted to correct it for the record.
I think you said that the remainder expenditure for the rest of the fiscal year is about 400, a little bit over 400,000. And so if that's the case, and there's currently an excess of over $2 million, why is DPO only going to remit 0.5?
Just give her a couple more minutes so
Okay.
that she can,
Sure.
calculate it.
Yes.
So, okay, so Mr. Chairman, in response, sorry about that. All right, so we have to meet payroll of what's this 4 more payrolls, right? August and September. So that brings us to at least 500 some $1,000, and then what's that 300? Estimated of 300 for other expenditures. So that gives us 800, and then we have 500 for accrual. What?
For unpaid CUC.
So we have 500 for unpaid CUC bills. So that brings us to about 1,003, right? From the 2 million, no, 1.3 million minus 2. So that brings us to about maybe 7, right? And it's for this reason that we put on record. It can increase or decrease at least.
500,000 in utilities, is that correct?
Did you say?
Because your proposal
Yes,
for
and
next
this is
fiscal year, your proposal for utilities for next fiscal year is only at 153,000.
Hold on. Go ahead and explain.
Mr. Chairman, there was an CUC expenditures during the pandemic that has not been settled, and that's around 402,000 for the COVID-19 expenditures, and the 35,000 for the military that they haven't even remitted yet, although we submitted all the billing to the Homeland Security and the military office.
So the 400,000 in arrears, how how many months does that cover?
That's the pandemic. No, that one is around because first we paid the CUC. So effective June 2021, I believe, or 22 onwards until the end of their stay in Can Pacific, DPL never paid CUC. So
Dave, is that reflective in accounts payable? Why would that not be reported under your accounts? How much, Dave?
that's under Homeland Security, sir.
What do you mean under Homeland? So it's billed to Homeland,
Yes.
not DPL.
The CUC charges are under DPL. However, the billing were sent to Homeland Security.
So if Homeland is going to pay for it, why are you including it as part of your expenditures?
Because in case they will not pay, since it's under DPL accounts, we are just assuming that CUC will go after DPL to pay those outstanding. That's why we are just accruing.
Okay, so if we're at 1.3, go ahead and proceed with their remaining expenditures. All right.
Either more or less.
Where's the remaining 800,000 going towards?
MPLT.
And so we address the utilities issued through Homeland, and we're looking at over $1 million to MPLT for the current fiscal year, correct?
Yes, sir.
Are we expecting any more land lease payments for the remainder of the fiscal year?
Usually the paid quarterly, and July falls on the last quarter of the fiscal year. So only those small leases or temporary permits that we are expecting to pay for August and September.
How much are you expecting for the last quarter?
Based on the balance that needs to be collected is around we're still around more or less 500.
500,000.
Yes.
So now we're up at 1.5 million to MPLT, correct?
If we are successful in collecting all of those, sir.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because earlier it was 500,000. Now we're up at 1.5 million. So we've at least identified 1.5 million, correct? Is that a correct statement?
More or less, sir, because
you.
this is still unaudited. So once the audit is finished, there are some reclassification of different
Well, I mean, that's a big
revenue.
variance between 1.5 and 500,000. And so I just wanted to, because I mean, we did, like I said, MPOT submitted their comments, and their comments go as far as saying that your projection for next year doesn't have anything listed as monies that are going to MPOT, which we could use to invest, and which could come back to the government as interest income. And so I want to make sure that we try to give as much for investment, because these are monies that we could use to also help the general fund. So thank you for that. At this time, maybe if I can recognize Senator Poe first, if there's anything he would like to ask, and to also acknowledge his attendance today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry for my late arrival. I just want to ask on the homestead. I heard the secretary mention for Doogie, right? There's $800,000, and I assume that that's from this latest 702 funding.
I think so. Yes, and we thank the Rhoda delegation, who has been very instrumental in trying to identify funding for our infrastructure in the first senatorial district.
Okay. So what about for I'm sorry, is that for Doogie or FINAFA?
Just for Doogie. Nothing has yet been identified for the FINAFA subdivision.
Okay, so I assume that that's different funding source or project than that which the CIP office is trying to run a pipeline up to the entrance of Dugi, right? That's a different funding source.
Yes, yes.
Okay, because that one I understand is moving forward, but because of some permitting requirement, that's being delayed. But that money is separate from that additional funding. Okay. What about a Dugi? Because I understand they have already did a lottery for that. And why is it? Can we give those title out to the applicants under the law that says if there's no infrastructure that's been made available, because they've been lotteried out since
So
10 years ago.
So Senator Manglonia, as you may recall, probably you also voted in one of our, one of your colleagues is Public Law one time, this Senator Cruz from Tinian, who has Public Law 20-05 that waives the requirement of the homesteading, the homesteading program. If there is no infrastructure in the subdivision, as long as the homesteader continuously maintain the assigned lot, that he or she may be eligible to be given his or her quitclaim deed. And so that again is only for those that have been permitted, lacking the infrastructure in the subdivision that was affected, can be given that. I'm not too sure if that also applies to those the subdivision that has been open, lottery, but yet has not been permitted absent the infrastructure. I think that's something that this body can look into, review, and see how you can amend that.
Can I ask our legal counsel,
Yes.
Chairman, maybe to look into that, whether that situation that exists with FINAFA qualifies under the law that I believe was sponsored by Senator Cruz, right? So what does that qualify under that? And if not, then what do we need to do? Because that's been assigned already to the homesteaders more than 10 years ago, right? In
They
FINAFA.
haven't been permitted yet.
That is correct. But then again, I think that's something that Councilor Bermudez can look into and amend the Public Law 20-05.
Okay, so just finally, because I was listening on the way also on the Hyatt, I know that the question was when you amended it, I think we need to charge Protopia, right, for any extension, because any delay, I agree, any delay is costing us. And we hope that it's not like Rhoda Resort. The situation with Rhoda Resort is Mr. Cho has a buyer, or a person that wants to buy off and be our partner, but he keeps delaying to get more money. So somebody was going to buy it for 100 million. He doesn't want. When the economy was really good, then he keeps asking for more. Finally, somebody only wants to buy it for 13 million. He still wants more. Then it was only 3 million. And then by the time it's costing us, and so I think that if it's true that we are extending, giving them extension, then we should charge them for the delay. And I hope you can look into that, Secretary, because we cannot turn Protopia into our real estate agent for the CNMI, right? It's better if they don't have any more after, was it July 31st, then take it away and let's do an RFP ourselves, because then it will benefit us more and we can do it faster than to wait for a situation like Rota Resort when it's all run down now, and then it's harder to find and it sets us back as far as Rhoda is concerned. I'm really worried that it will become like the Rhoda Resort. We're talking about your budget, and you need to be pretty soon, for example, in the case of other like Rhoda Resort, you have to keep paying for maintenance and all that. We don't want to do that. The same thing with Hyatt. But I mentioned, I just want to throw in my 2 cents on that. And Sisus Masi, Nesty.
Thank you, Vice. You have anything else? Recognize the
Senator
light.
Manglonia, you brought up very good points. Yeah.
Are you going to respond to him
No, no,
or? So maybe you missed it, but I think if I understand correctly, Hyatt paid in advance through December of this year. So it's not really an extension, right? I mean, they technically have the property until December of this year.
Right.
Well, I don't think that's right. I'm sorry for the respect. That is not right because even though if they pay for the next 5 years, they're already in default for not doing the renovation today
Oh,
that should have been done yesterday.
okay.
So the
I was
fact
just, I
that
guess,
yeah, so
referring.
Yes.
so that's where I'm coming from.
Okay,
That
yes.
that because even though they pay to the end of the year of the
The
lease,
lease, yes.
it
there are
doesn't
other
matter
terms.
because the hotel is shut down and we're not collecting hotel occupancy tax. We're not employing and we're not bringing in tourists. So they actually already, for all practical purposes, terminated the contract,
Right.
no? Even though they paid in advance. So I'm saying, I hope that I don't see any extension without a charge. Charge them like somebody was saying, 2 million for every 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
A million a week because they're delaying us and what we're being told is there's already an investor that wants to come to you but they cannot come to you because they have to deal with Pertopia, and if they're dealing with Pertopia and Pertopia keeps putting these people bidding for the highest price, then it's not to the best interest of our government but to the best interest of Pertopia, no? And so that's the balance, and I hope you understand that. Thank you.
I understand now, Senator Paul. Okay. So I'd like to go back to the CUC and Homeland issue. How much in arrears is this DPO owe CUC that's due from
Just for
Homeland?
this Homeland Security, Madam, is 487, 402, 746.57. And for the military, it's at 35,678.42.
Okay, because are you saying the military utilized the facility?
Yes.
Okay. So the 402,000, this was as of when? Like how old is this arrears?
Since I think they left the property July 2020.
2022?
22, yeah.
Okay.
22.
And okay, so the account belongs to CUC, but Homeland used the property for quarantine purposes, right? And so now DPL is left with this balance to pay.
So
Yes.
Chair, the account belongs to DPL,
I
but
mean,
it was the
yes.
Homeland that used that
Right,
during
that's what-
the COVID
Okay.
pandemic. But nonetheless, DPL is currently working, reaching out to Homeland as well as the military
Okay,
affairs.
because that
to-
was
to-
my next question.
yeah,
What
to-
has DPL
we have been
done?
corresponding, to try to address this.
I mean, so what's the
Yes.
delay with them paying it?
Well,
I mean, they used the facility. Everybody knew that
True.
they used it. So why are they not paying up what they used?
True. So again, there's that collaboration, and hopefully that this bill's outstanding obligations are resolved between the agencies.
Sure.
Yes.
I just, this was July of 2022. It's now August of 2024. What efforts have been made by DPO and also in collaboration with Homeland to resolve the issue, right? So that CUC can get paid. And the liability doesn't fall on DPL, more importantly, right? So I hope that this can be resolved soon. I hope DPL can collect the payments because therefore, I mean, you're gonna have to pay it. It sounds like you guys want to pay this balance off so that you can get it off your books, but you also need to get reimbursed for it. So I'm hoping that you guys are being proactive and assertive in
We
trying to
hope
get.
so too, and
yeah.
we have been very proactive and following this outstanding payments.
Sure.
With these two agencies, but
Okay.
again, we have been communicating every now and then, and hopefully, yes, that again payment is made.
Okay, and so that's one aspect of the Marianas Resort. Was the agreement ever finalized between DPL and I don't know if it's Homeland Security for the rental of the property while they were using it?
Thank you for that question, Madam Chair. We did forward to the Homeland Security the temporary authorization
Mm-hmm.
that would allow them and also bill them for the use of the
Sure.
premises.
Okay. So what's the status of that?
We've
Okay. First of all, how much do they owe
is it 90,000
for the
TA?
the whole time they were using the facility? Is only 90,000?
I'm it's been a while since I've looked at that. I'm not sure. No, there was a temporary authorization that we sent to Homeland, but we never got their concurrence back, and we've been asking for that document. and
What was
including
the
payment.
understanding between DPO and Homeland to use the facility, and at what price?
I was not part of that conversation or that part.
So
Only when they
who
did.
was?
I believe the former secretary at that time.
There's no paper trail or anything that that could help us understand what was the understanding and the agreement between the two parties, so that, I mean, because you can't just use the facility for free. I mean, somebody has to pay for it.
Yes, and we've met with Homeland Security, and when they drafted up the that authorization for them to use the area and as well to pay DPO, we just never got the acknowledgement back, nor the payment.
Okay, so there was never any budget or projection to capture or reflect the payment from Homeland for the use of the facility? I mean, why not? I mean, so if you went to a hotel and stayed at a hotel, you would have to pay. Similarly to the facility, right? They used it for quarantine purposes. Why did we not expect to get, I mean, that property belongs to NMDs, right? Public. So why would the public lost out money and during that time when they were using the facility? So why would we not, go after the money that's owed to the people that owns the land? I mean, isn't that the responsibility of DPL to manage and oversee and make sure that, the public property that belongs to the people is being managed, and whatever payment that's due to the people is paid on time? I mean, whose responsibility is that?
Yes, I've been in communication with Homeland Security. I believe we even sent emails back, to them. We did not get a response.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that was
we can follow up with that.
yes, please.
Yes.
Can you? I
Mhm.
mean,
Sure.
everybody, I mean, if I was the owner of the property and I give it to somebody to manage it and, take care of it, I would expect payment for my property if my property is being used. So similarly to our people, it belongs to them. We owe them that responsibility to follow through with whatever is due to them. So I would like to know what was the agreement, what was agreed upon on what the rate was going to be charged for, I don't know how many number of rooms and for how long. And, just I want to know how much is owed to our people. And when can we expect that money? Because Homeland Security, right? It's supposed to be, is it FEMA that was supposed to pay those during the pandemic time, right? And is FEMA aware of those costs?
We were communicating with the department, the Homeland Security Office, the grant management, and they said that they are working with the provider.
Okay.
And there is also one invoice that we are expecting payment of 129,000 that according to them, it's ready for payment processing.
Mm-hmm.
So when I spoke to Connie said that they are waiting for the drawdown.
So Connie's aware of this?
Yes, that 129,000.
Connie from Treasury?
Yes.
Okay.
So what I have mentioned to them that if you are waiting for the drawdown, usually if for reimbursement purpose.
So,
for
let me back up
reimbursement.
then. If Connie's already aware of this and there's a drawdown, there must be some paper trail, right? For her to even know that there's a drawdown coming down and how much. So there must have been an agreement already executed.
That's the one she is waiting for a document for the drawdown from the FEMA, from the
And
Homeland
from an
Security.
accounting standpoint, you guys weren't recording this showing as an accrual waiting to receive some payments?
It's recorded because some of those, that 129 is belong to DPL. We paid that. We paid around 750. I think.
Are you
170
referring to like utilities? We're just referring about the rental of the facility.
Oh, the rental of the
Yes.
facility. I am not aware. I'm sorry. I'm not aware of the rental. I was not.
If we were anticipating payment, accounting was not aware or in the loop.
Regarding the agreement for the rental, I am not aware that it is to be paid.
But you
that's
were aware
utility
that the
only.
facility was being used.
Yes, only
But
the
did you ask?
utility.
Did you ask the former secretary at the time? Obviously they're using the facility. Did you, as an accountant, did you not ask the former secretary? Are we going to get payment for the rental of this property?
We can go over on the agreement that Mr. The former secretary, that he was amending the agreement, the first agreement, because the first agreement, I believe, it's only the utility.
So there was already an executed agreement, an original
On the
agreement.
utility. That's the temporary authorization. And then I believe he amended that one to incorporate
So
the rental.
does DPO have copy of the original contract? Because it sounds like there is. If there was an amendment that was going to happen, it sounds like there was an original.
Chair, if I may intervene, because there appears to be extensive
Okay.
with this discussion
Yes.
of this matter. So DPO would take this matter,
Okay.
and review, go back to its records
Okay.
or files with respect to any agreement and how much this is supposed to
Okay.
who is going to pay DPO, and then we'll report
Okay.
back to the Senate.
Sorry,
Thank
that
you.
kind of got carried
Mhm.
carried away with that. Okay.
I know.
So, so the infrastructure. So we talked about grants, trying to avail some grants that are available out there for infrastructure. Are there going to be any issues with regards to the whole homestead, because it's only for NMDs?
Yes, that's the issue we're running into right now, is the fact that it's discriminatory, basically. Whereas most of the federal grants wants to be inclusive,
Right.
and not exclusive.
Right. So where does that leave us? I mean, I know that you're trying to try to get grants for infrastructure, but if there's restrictions, with those grants,
Yeah, so we're trying to. That's why we're talking with, like, let's say CUC. We're trying to see if CUC could be
be the one to
to be the grant applicant for infrastructure,
Okay.
for Doogie or whichever
okay,
homestead.
that's okay.
Yeah,
I don't want
yeah,
to say more on that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then FTEs, secretary. So I noticed that there's 6 vacant FTEs on the report. Is that still the case, or have some of this vacant?
Yes, that is,
FTEs.
basically a status quo, Chair.
Okay.
But then DPO do intend to open up these FTEs beginning the new fiscal
Okay.
year.
Okay. So you still have an appraiser and a civil engineer vacant.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And something just caught my eyes, and I thought I'd ask. I see that there's a special advisor on your FTE. Can you?
Mr. Sablan back here is the special advisor to DPO.
Okay, and can you just share with us what the scope of, like, him as a special
So,
advisor?
Dave is in charge of, not in charge, but, advises DPO on DPO matters, including the Manyakoho Island.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have, Secretary and Chair. Thank you, Ayub.
Thank you, Vice. Any other member? At this time, we'd like to thank you for your presence, to you, Secretary, and your entire team, And if there's anything else that we missed or maybe that you would like to share that we did not bring up today, feel free to reach out to any of the members. I do know that our fiscal analysts have sent out several requests for report, and I'm not sure if those have been responded to, but if you can provide him with those reports, as well as any updated information
If
that was brought up in
yeah,
this
if
meeting.
those are if those reports are requested today, then yes, we would have to provide those at a later time. But if those reports that were requested maybe last month, we have already provided those materials, right, Mr. Dimapan?
The one that I got so far is the one that I requested from you, the latest one, which is what I have today. But other than earlier request, I have.
So can you again resend that email so that I can refer to the affected director in order for that director to respond? And I would like to assume that I'm going to be directing that to
Yeah.
finance and accounting. Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman
you.
and members, yes,
Thank you.
it was a very productive, interaction with respect to our budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything under announcements? If none from the members, tomorrow we have OGM at 9 and then Public Works at 1:30. Thank you, SA for OMB for your participation today. At this time, members, can I get a motion for adjournment? A motion was made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Meeting is hereby adjourned at 4:11 p.m.